I then let go of the other aspects of my work and focus on the issue that's causing me stress, the more anxiety I feel because I am aware that I'm letting things drop where I shouldn't be across my wider responsibilities, and it creates a very unproductive situation for me at work.
So when you're saying anxiety and it's how it's affecting productivity, is it all of the time or is it in certain circumstances? Could you just give a bit of background as to when you feel it most acutely?
It can be. It's generally to do with client or customer-related issues where I have a big hurdle to clear, and I'm struggling to, or things are proving challenging, and I feel that we are on, or my team is on the back foot. So I'm constantly pedaling to improve the situation, where actually a lot of it is down to serendipity and it's not actually to do with the quality of work we're producing. But I bear that burden very personally.
And is it always at work, or do other aspects of life sort of add to that stress?
My stress levels increase when I feel my life is out of control. So I find that if I'm stressed at work, then I abandon personal administration. I'm not really in touch with my friends. I don't keep on top of life more generally, and all of that then increasingly adds to my levels of stress.
And would you say that actually when you're feeling much more comfortable, you're much more productive, you're much more focused, and there's much more clarity around sort of your...
Oh, much more. I mean, if I'm comfortable across my work, I'm very productive. I'm clear-sighted, I can plan, and I'm very goal-orientated and achieve a lot. When I become stressed, my focus becomes wholly task-orientated on the matter that's causing me stress, and it becomes very unproductive because actually it doesn't more time spent on the particular issue doesn't actually resolve it.
So is it kind of fair to say that actually the outcome you're really looking for today is about how you can cope with that stress and manage it and maybe package it up so that you can focus on the work side and maintain productivity or even increase productivity during those stressful periods, but also so you can pick up warning signs or sort of symptoms of that stress so you know how to deal with it and sort of put the coping mechanisms in place?
Yeah.
Is that fair? Okay. So what just thinking about that then, and there's always going to be a trigger, so what do you think is the trigger for this sort of ballooning of anxiety?
Well, I automatically set very high standards for the work that me and my team achieve, and even if I don't necessarily feel the hostility of a customer, I certainly will start to feel anxiety around a project if it's not running as exactly smoothly as I would want it to in an ideal scenario. So it starts with that, and invariably if it ends up in a situation, because I know that it's a particularly challenging piece of work, where the customer starts to become questioning or dissatisfied, then that starts to create stress.
And you talk about it affecting the clients, but what are the real consequences of this?
Well, obviously, ultimately, there's a reputational impact on our business, because we're a client servicing business, and so if you have an unhappy customer, then ultimately it's going to result in negative consequences for the business.
So financial impacts as well as sort of reputational?
Probably not, and it depends how long term. I mean, as with any customer and vendor relationship, there's always an aspect of feeling the heat in the moment, but working through problems so that reputational damage is averted. And so I think keeping that more in perspective for me would help, because I tend to see situations as be all and end all, and if the customer is unhappy on a particular day, I de facto will imagine the worst, and that's lost business and they won't repeat business, and actually the reality is probably quite different from that.
So, I mean, you talked a little bit about the triggers and when you feel you start to feel the anxiety, but do you have any controlling mechanisms at the moment that you try and put into place, so you try and sort of keep a lid on it?
No, nothing specific that I could point to.
Okay. And does the anxiety have other impact on sort of your relationship with people at work, or is it really just focusing on your productivity and your own stress levels?
Well, it's not great for people I manage because I tend to turn away from routine meetings or things or attention to my other projects, and so if I'm working across other teams I tend not to give it so much attention or direction because I become quite obsessively focused with the issue in hand, so it probably negatively impacts the people I line manage and my other teams.
Okay. And have you had any sort of feedback from your colleagues as to how you could potentially look to sort of manage this? Have you had anything in the current place of work, or is this sort of the first time you're really looking to address it?
Well, no, I mean the feedback that I get tends to be that I set very high standards and that I actually need to relax because my worst case scenario is quite normal and that actually, in the grand scheme of things, the scenarios that cause me real concern are part of the course, and so actually I can, that can help me, and if I can talk through with colleagues the issue that I'm facing early enough and get their perspective on it, then it does actually help me to step back and realise that actually it's not as detrimental as I'm fearing inside.
So time's a big factor in this then, and actually by giving yourself space you can really give that sort of freedom to feel much more comfortable and come to the conclusions in your own time rather than having the sort of the press put upon you. Is that a fair statement?
No, I don't think time is really an issue at all. It's not really to do with the time, it's more to do with perspective and...
so it's the severity of the consequences
that concern me, and other people's perspectives and ways of helping me to see that actually what is causing me stress is normal or relatively irrelevant. It does help me to manage the stress.
Okay, I mean, it sounds as though it's having quite a big impact on productivity, and it sounds as though you're very worried about the reputation or the impact that it's going to have on the business. And in many ways that might be exacerbating the levels of anxiety because you feel that you'll be doing something negative, and actually it may not be the case. It may be that it's just routine business that everyone gets stressed for. I mean, when you're looking at any given day, could you sort of give a rough percentage of the sort of time that you feel anxious? I mean, is it around sort of 20% or 30%? I mean, is it a lot of the time, or is it at certain circumstances where you're dealing with high sort of profile, high pressure situations?
It's not a day balance. It's a period of time. So there are times when, if I'm stressed, it will last for weeks. But then because it will be around a particular project which is ongoing, so it's not moments of stress in the day. It will be an unproductive period of time where I do the bare minimum on other things and focus on an issue or a particular problem. So that could be one whole week if I'm handling some very challenging negotiations, for example, or it could be 2 weeks where I'm feeling very high intensity pressure to deliver, and then I could have a period of months where everything feels manageable and I don't feel under scrutiny, and then I'm very productive.
Okay, so I mean, I think you could probably approach this in two ways. One is to look at it as a sort of state of mind, or the other one is to actually look at it as environmental. So it's either you creating the stress and the anxiety yourself, or it's the situation creating it and pressing it upon you. And I think you've got to find the best way to manage and control that. So what I really want to talk through is how you think you could either create a state of mind where you're not stressed, that you can compartmentalise the issues, and